All right, guys, it is time for Deka Zone 1. That is 30 alternating reverse lunges. Men use 55 pounds and females use 33 pounds. Those are both Rams. So, how do you
The
feel about
awesome.
this zone?
Well, I mean, I always wonder how they got how did the Ram roller get popular? That's what I want to know first. Who
Um, I
who
want
was
to
like,
say
hey, let's
Spartan
make a foam
Stadium.
roller. Sorry, what?
I'm pretty sure it started or gained popularity with the Spartan stadiums because they had the Ram burpees and that.
Right. I forgot about that.
That's
I
when
guess it was
Spartan
just
got involved with them.
yeah. I guess it was just a carryover item then. But the first time I ever saw the Deca Zone, and I was just like, why didn't they just use dumbbells for it? But anyway, yeah. Um, the Ram roller doesn't really make a big difference whether it's dumbbells or way less grip strength needed for this zone, obviously, because you can rest it on your shoulder, either on one shoulder or across your back. So not a whole lot of grip needed, not really much upper body strength needed. It's just gonna torch your legs. And obviously the goal is to go as fast as you can so that you get the shortest time on that zone without burning your legs out. Because it's zone one, you're fresh, you could jump right into it and crank them out really quickly. But doing that as fast as you can may completely ruin the rest of your race. So
Yeah, it's easy to get sucked into that trap where you feel good, and usually you feel good through like the box and then or through the sit-ups really, and then you go into the ski and you're like, ah, crap.
it's
But
actually it's the funniest thing. Every time I do zone one, I get to like 15 reps and I go, oh man, I'm only halfway.
yeah,
I'm
honestly,
like,
it's
I'm like
one of my
starting to
least
burn.
favorite. It's one of my least favorite. I couldn't tell you why, but I don't like zone one. I'd rather do the other ones.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It gets over fast enough. The biggest thing I see, because I've been able to coach and judge a lot of different athletes through the DECA and everything at the events and stuff, and a lot of times what you'll see is people just super wobbly while doing the reverse lunges, like not having the stability, barely able to get that full range of motion. So to do those efficiently and without hurting yourself and fast and controlled, you need to have strong glutes, make sure your glutes are actually working while you do it, and also enough flexibility through your hip flexors and hamstrings. Because if you
Yep.
don't have those things, you're going to be wobbling all over the place. The form's going to be ugly. You're not going to be efficient, and you're just going to wear yourself out way, 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 way more than you should. It is like
Yeah.
it is a difficult motion for a lot of people, especially older people, because it's a full range of motion. You have to go all the way down to the ground, and it's kind of a complex motion. If you have knee problems, it's going to make it a lot more difficult. But if you take the time to work on stability, strengthening your glutes, mobility through the hips, it'll make a very big difference.
Yep. All very true. One thing that has happened at Deca Fit events, I don't think I've seen it at Deca Strong or Mile yet, is they put down two pads on the ground, which is nice for when your knees touching the ground, because then you're not smacking into anything hard. It's a nice soft surface for your knee to hit. But it does make the surface you're standing on much more wobbly, much less stable. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that zone. Um, well, you don't want to be smacking your knee into the ground hard anyway. So definitely practice the movement so you're not doing that just in general. But if you have two mats down, it may make a much more wobbly surface than if you just had one down and just had control of it because you practiced it.
I think I think DECA. So if you go to like a road show or a DECA Fit event, anything hosted by like officially DECA, they have new mats now that are
Oh, okay.
much better. They're not the flimsy ones that slide around. They're pretty thick and heavy, and they have a line on them, so you don't have so you can keep your feet in front of the line and get the full range of motion. So yeah, I used that at Worlds. I think they had them at Worlds, and also the last road show I did in September, October, or something like that. So that is a big upgrade. A mat can make a very big
Good.
difference. I've tripped up on some of those mats that are just like super loose, and I'm sure that, you know, a lot of these smaller gyms that are just holding the event on their own, they're probably going to have some of those slippery mats. So I usually just don't use them. I'll push it to the side. Even though you're not getting as much padding with the knee, it's still better than getting tripped up and losing time that way. So
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't know they got new mats. That's actually very good to hear.
yeah, it makes a difference for sure. But yeah, I think probably the best exercise besides doing alternating reverse lunges to train for this is going to be Bulgarian split squats, because you're going to get that stability, you're going to get that glute activation, and those are just a really good exercise for strengthening your legs, especially through the hips. So I think that would probably be my most recommended exercise to train for the zone 1 of DECA.
Yeah, that would be, I would probably say the same. But since you said that, I think just obviously any form of weighted walking lunge would be a great option. So it could be holding dumbbells by your sides. It could be with a bar. It could be with a sandbag, whatever. But any form of weighted lunge with high repetitions so that you get used to going for many repetitions, since you're going to have to crank out 15 on each leg. You can't really go wrong doing single leg exercises like that. I think Bulgarian split squats have require a little more intensity and a lot of stability. So I think that would be my number one also, but walking lunges probably second.
Yep. And then a great way to train for it is to take zone 1, 2, and 3, the lunges, the row, and the box, and do those in a circuit. You're not going to be able to walk for a couple days, but it will definitely get your legs ready for doing a full DECA event. You'll be able to build up endurance that way. And so yeah, I've done that a couple times. I hate doing it because it hurts so bad, but it also helps to teach you how to pace the lunges, right? Because that first round, if you do it in a circuit and go through a couple different times, that first round you're going to be fresh and feeling good. By the second round, you're already hurting. You're going to have to slow down. But if you try and focus on keeping each round pretty similar in pace, who knows how long it will take? We'll say 3 minutes and 30 seconds, for example. Try and keep all the rounds around that same time so that you're moving through consistently, versus having your first round be like 3 minutes and then your last round is like 4.5 minutes. Then you know you're coming out too hot and not pacing correctly. So that's a good way to practice the pacing through very fatigued, compromised legs.
Yep. No, that's a great call. As far as the placement of the RAM on your shoulders or back, obviously if you put it on your back, you have a exactly even distribution of weight. So both legs are taking the same amount of weight the whole time. If you put it across one shoulder, one leg is taking a little more weight than the other. Does it really matter? Not really. It is faster to get the RAM up on one shoulder than it is across your whole back. So that's something to consider. And really, to me, a lot of it comes down to which is more comfortable. I used to hold it across my upper back, across my shoulders, because I found it more comfortable and I didn't like holding it on one side. But once I switched to just one shoulder and practiced it enough, it started becoming comfortable. So I like that better now. But it really is just personal preference. As long as you're not suffering time-wise doing either one, then choose whichever one you want because they both work.
Yeah, same with me. I started with both hands and the RAM on my back, kind of like in a squat format. And I switched to one. And actually, I think one is probably better only because you'll be able to breathe better. When your arms are behind you and you're having to use both arms on the RAM, I feel like that's going to be a little bit more restricting for airflow. So if you have just one arm, and you can also use that free arm to balance with your legs a little bit and push off your legs, which is what some people do. So those are small pros to doing it with just one side instead of the RAM and both arms.
Yeah, and that's something to consider as well. All right. Any additional thoughts for DECA Zone 1?
No, I think we covered just about everything.
Sweet. Well, thank you all for listening. We will have a DECA Zone 2 and all the way up through Zone 10. And eventually one day we'll get into DECA Atlas and all that too. But subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and catch our videos. There'll be one a week for pretty much forever.
All right, guys. See you later.